Hey guys, welcome to my front porch. I am going to start reading a few chapters a day, or every other day, on The Beast. R.L. Stine is always a good adventure story. It is about a haunted roller coaster. It says, is the roller coaster really haunted, right? Is the roller coaster really haunted? So, I'm going to start reading this, and hope you guys are doing well today. Hope you are having a great time being at home. And you might hear my dog because he really wants to come out here with me, but the answer is no to that. So, all right. So, you also may hear something else going on. I'm not really sure what's going on in here. All right. So, I shut my eyes as a shrill scream escaped my throat. Bouncing hard, I opened them in time to see the trees fly by in a jarring blur. Whoa! I tossed forward as I roared straight down into darkness. A sudden spin made me cry out again. The car tilted hard to the left, and I slammed into my cousin, Ashley Franks. She was screaming too. Her blonde hair flew out wildly behind her head. We swooped down once more. A sharp dip. I yelped in surprise as I felt myself fly up from my seat. The trees whirled by shadowy, in the dark night light. The car clattered noisily as it began to climb again. "This is great!" I screamed to Ashley. Her face was bright red. Her blue eyes were wide, staring up at the top of the track. She grinned at me and started to reply, but instead she let out a startled whoop as our car plunged down, down, down with a deafening roar. The wind battered my face. I gripped the bar tightly with both hands, down, down, and into total darkness. Huh? A tunnel? We whirled through the tunnel, then back out into dim light, filtering through the dark, leafy trees. Then a jolting turn pushed me into Ashley again. My cousin was screaming too hard to notice. Another tunnel, another climb, another swooping, roaring spin that made the car squill. And then we slowed to a stop. Over my thudding heartbeat, I could hear screams and laughter behind us. Ashley and I had been riding in the front car. I turned to her. She was still breathing hard. Her hair was wild, standing almost straight up. She tried to brush it down with both hands. "You were right, James," she exclaimed. "The Beast is awesome." "It's the best, I told you," I cried breathlessly. I climbed out of the roller coaster car and onto the platform. "Hey, I'm dizzy." "You're always dizzy," Ashley teased, following me out. She staggered for a few steps, then grabbed my shoulder. She laughed. "Whoa, I'm a little dizzy too, I guess." We staggered off the platform and followed the exit path. I turned back to stare at the enormous roller coaster, the wooden tracks rising up darker even than the night sky. My heart was still racing. As Ashley and I walked, we were surrounded by laughing, shouting voices. I thought the ride was over," Ashley said, still trying to untangle her hair. "But then we started to climb again." "That was the longest roller coaster ride anywhere," I exclaimed. Other roller coasters last only a minute or two, but this one takes like over 4 minutes. "I'm an expert on roller coasters. I ride them whenever I can, and I never ride just once. I always go back and ride again and again. The third time is usually the best. By that time, your screaming muscles are limbered up, and you can howl like a pro all the way." I'd been to Paramount Kings Island twice before, and I had ridden the Beast at least a half a dozen times. But this was Ashley's first time. She's 12 and I'm 12, but I think I look older. She's about 4 inches shorter than me, even with all the wild blonde hair. She's skinny, too. I guess she's kind of pretty. She has great blue eyes and a nice smile. People always tease me because I don't smile much. I've got dark brown hair and dark eyes, and I just look serious. That's all. Ashley and I don't get to see each other very much. Our families live about 300 miles apart, but when we do, we get along pretty well. We like to tease each other and get on each other's case. Sometimes we play pretty mean tricks on each other, but I guess that's normal. We stopped at a food stand and bought sodas. All that screaming had made us thirsty. After gulping down half her cup of soda, Ashley glanced up at the dark sky. A pale half moon had risen above the trees. "It's getting pretty late," she said. "Past your bedtime, James." "Ha ha," I replied, rolling my eyes. She took another long gulp from her cup. Some of it trickled onto the front of her sleeveless blue shirt, but she didn't notice. She pushed her hair off her forehead with her free hand. "What do you want to do now?" I asked. We had been at the park since early afternoon. We had already ridden most of the other roller coasters. "Let's ride the Beast again," Ashley cried. Her eyes lit up as an excited grin crossed her face. "Come on." "The line is pretty long," I told her, motioning to it. I glanced at my watch. "And the park is going to close soon." "Come on," she cried, not listening to me. She tugged on my sleeve of my t-shirt. "Hurry." I pulled back. "No, really, there isn't time, Ashley," I insisted. "Please, let's just try, okay?" she begged, tugged at me again. "Let's get in line again, please." Well, okay, I agree. And that was when the trouble began. Chapter 2. Ashley and I jogged side by side to the end of the line. It stretched along a low wall in front of a line of trees. We were breathing hard by the time we got there. Up ahead, we could hear the clatter of the roller coaster cars, and we could hear kids screaming their heads off, but we couldn't see them. The Beast stretches off into the woods. It's almost entirely hidden from view. We stepped up behind two teenage boys. They both had long black hair. One of them wore a Cincinnati Reds cap. The one with the cap shoved the other one playfully against the wall. They both laughed. The blue uniformed guard stepped up suddenly behind Ashley and me. She set down a sign that said, "Line closed." "We just made it," Ashley cried happily. "We're the last ones." I glanced at my watch. I was a little worried about the time. I was supposed to call my mom when we were ready to be picked up, but we were so busy riding all the coasters, I completely forgot about calling. "We'll have to phone her as soon as the ride is over," I told myself. A cool breeze blew over us. I could hear high-pitched screams coming over the roller coaster up ahead. "This is great," Ashley cried. "I can't believe we're the very last ones in line." "Yeah, we made it just in time," I said. The two guys ahead of us were goofing around. "Hey, Gary, give me my hat." Who's gonna make me?" They started wrestling for the hat, laughing and shoving each other. The one named Gary bumped Ashley hard. "Hey!" she cried angrily. "Sorry," he said, grinning at her. He pointed at his friend. "Ernie pushed me." Ernie grabbed his Red's cap from Gary and pulled it over his dark hair. "You ever ride the Beast before?" he asked Ashley. "Sure, about 100 times," Ashley lied. "You ever sit in the front seat?" Gary asked. "Lots of times," Ashley told him. "Were you scared?" Gary asked, grinning at me. "No way," I told him. "You know, the Beast is haunted," Ernie said, adjusting his cap. His grin faded. "Huh?" I stared back at him, trying to get the joke. "Really?" he insisted. "It's haunted." "Everyone knows that," his friend chimed in. "Give us a break," Ashley said, rolling her eyes. "It was on the news," Gary told her. "On TV, I saw it." "There's a ghost," Ernie said. "Late at night, after the park is closed, he rides the Beast again and again." "Oh, sure," I replied sarcastically. "Hey, we're not little kids, you know." I'm not joking, Ernie said, his expression serious. It was on the news, really, Gary added. The ghost rides late at night, the security guards. They hear the clatter of the wheels, but when they run to check it out, none of the cars have moved. It's a total mystery, Ernie said, adjusting his cap again. No way, I cried. There's no ghost. But at that moment, I felt icy fingers close around the back of my neck. Chapter 3. Alright, let me adjust. Chapter 3. I let out a frightening whelp before I realized that Ashley had grabbed the back of my neck. Everyone laughed. Ashley laughed hardest of all. She thought it was a real riot. How'd you get such cold hands? I demanded angrily. She held up her cold cup of soda. Gotcha, she cried. She could be a real pain sometimes. I could feel myself blushing. Luckily, the line had started to move, and the two teenage guys turned away. Do you think there's really a ghost that rides the beast? Ashley whispered as we followed the line forward. Of course not, I replied angrily. Do you think there's really a tooth fairy? I mean, there isn't? She cried, acting startled. Then how do those quarters get under my pillow when I lose a tooth? She laughed, but her expression quickly became serious. Those two boys believe in ghosts, she whispered. They weren't kidding. There's no ghost, I insisted. But they saw it on the news, she replied. We stopped onto the platform. The breeze felt cool and damp. I could still feel Ashley's cold fingers on the back of my neck. I shivered. I glanced at my watch again. Nearly 11 o'clock. I promised my mom I would call before 10. How could I have forgotten? We didn't call. Everyone must be furious, I muttered. Don't be such a nervous nut, Ashley replied. I'm not a nervous nut, I insisted. Don't call me a nervous nut. You're a nervous nut, she repeated. I tugged on her blonde hair. She punched me in the shoulder. I grabbed her two fingers, and stretched them until they cracked. She punched me harder. Luckily, the line moved forward before we got out of control. A few minutes later, we were eagerly scrambling into a car. We were the last ones on the beast. This time, we were in the middle row of the last car. When we were all on board, the heavy car began to roll. Up the steep track. I knew what was ahead. I knew what would happen as soon as we reached the top, and I couldn't wait. I took a deep breath and prepared to start screaming. The ride was even more awesome the second time. We swooped and swirled through the dark trees. The tunnels whirled around us, and we climbed into the purple sky and back down into the woods. I felt as if I were some kind of spaceship hurtling into the dark space. Suddenly, I could hear the screams and happy cries of the others. I couldn't see Ashley beside me or the kids in the seat in front of us. I was in my own world, a world of whirling shadows, a world of speed and wind. When the car jolted to stop, I groaned in disappointment. I didn't want the ride to end. I wanted to keep flying, soaring through the trees, the cold wind rushing against my face. I just sat there for a long while with my eyes shut. Even though we had stopped, I could still feel the movement of the car, still feel the jarring turns, the swooping slides, the steep climbs. I don't know how long I sat there. Probably just a few minutes. Maybe it was close to a few seconds. Maybe it was close to a minute. Then I opened my eyes and climbed out. Wasn't that excellent? I turned to ask Ashley. Wasn't that the best? I gasped when I realized she was gone. See you next time.